Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're going to make...
Just keep going.
Today we're going to make spicy Italian pulled beef.
I think it makes it worse with spicy in front of it.
Okay. Today... Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're going to make Italian pulled beef, which sounds like a Rocky porn parody, but is actually a crock pot dish that you can make. And this is a really good crock pot item you can make. Great for summertime because it makes a really fantastic sandwich, and it can serve a lot of people depending upon the size beef roast you use, or just a few. So what you need, obviously, is a crock pot. I have a 6-quart crock pot. It works really nice for something big, especially like a beef roast, because sometimes they're not shaped exactly how you'd want. So it fits really well because it's an oval. So a nice big crock pot. The great thing about doing this is in the summertime, first of all, it doesn't heat up your kitchen, and you can do this while you're at work. It's because this particular recipe takes 8 to 10 hours to cook on low, so it takes plenty of time. Really nice thing to do while you're away at work. And it serves, depending upon the size of roast you get, it serves between 6 and 12 people, or even more than that, depending upon the size that you buy. For, I would say, 6 people, you need a 2-pound beef roast. For more than that, if you want to go 3 or 4 pound beef roast, you should be able to do 10 to 12 people with that much. I used a chuck roast, and what I like to do is before I make something, I always trim my roast. I trim all the fat off of it because I just don't really like to get fat or gristle when I'm eating something, especially something like a pulled meat sandwich. So if you take that roast and get a very sharp knife and just trim all the fat and gristle off of it until you pretty much have just meat left, perfect. You can use a chuck roast. Chuck roast, though, I mean, they can be really fatty. You can use a chuck roast. An English roast is good too. The one thing about an English roast is they're generally cheaper because it's not as good of a cut, and they tend to be a little on the tough side. So if you cook it, if you're going to be cooking it for 8 hours, I mean, it doesn't matter how tough it is, it's going to be tender. So you need your roast. You need a 12-ounce can or bottle of beer, and I recommend highly using a dark beer. I wouldn't use anything like an IPA because I just think that taste would throw the whole thing off. We used Yingling Black and Tan, which is a very nice, dark, full-bodied beer. It made an excellent broth for the meat. You need a 12-ounce jar of pepperoncini peppers, which are those little funky-looking bright green peppers that come on a Papa John's pizza sometimes. You know, did you ever eat one of those? They are hot little suckers. So you need a jar of those. Yes, this is going to be a hot Italian beef. So... you also need some Italian seasoning, which is just basically, Italian seasoning is pretty much basil and oregano mixed together, and sometimes there's some other stuff in there. So if you have the pre-made Italian seasoning, don't go out and buy it. I mean, but if you have pre-made Italian seasoning, use that. If you don't, mix up 2 tablespoons worth of basil and parsley and oregano, and that should work just fine. And you need a teaspoon of minced garlic. So first thing you're going to do is pour your beer into the crock pot, okay? Then you're going to add your 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning and your 1 teaspoon of mixed garlic. Stir that up a little bit. Then I drain the peppers and put them in. If you were doing a large roast, like a 4-pound roast, I would recommend not draining the peppers. If you are doing a 2-pound roast, I definitely recommend you draining the peppers because it will be very, 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 very hot. Because those peppers are hot. I mean, hot. So I drained them because I did the smaller roast. Drained my peppers, and then I just put the peppers into the crock pot and stirred it up. Then I placed my beef on top of that. When I set the beef on top, because the nice thing, like usually in a crock pot, if you have something liquid in there, or something, for example, like the canned pepperoncini, it takes them a while to cook. Meat cooks pretty fast in a crock pot, so you can put that right on top of the peppers, and then it will cook on top of there, and they'll cook real nice. And then what I did, I sprinkled just a little bit of salt and pepper and garlic powder on the meat, just a very small amount, a dash of each one, and I put that on, put the lid on it, and put it on low, and then I left. And then to serve this, what you're going to do when you're ready to serve it, open up your crock pot and have a plate ready, and very carefully lift your beef roast out and set it on the plate. And then I made sure, I didn't want the peppers right in there with my meat. Some people leave the peppers in, but I didn't. I took a slotted spoon and I cleaned all those peppers out of the juice and put them into a separate bowl, and I put a little bit of juice on them to kind of serve as a side. So if somebody really wanted to put those on their sandwich, they were there, and if they didn't want them, they were out. So I put those on the side. Then I took my meat and I shredded it with 2 forks, shredded it all up, and I put that back in the juice and stirred it up and let it go for about 10 more minutes to get it nice and soaked in there. And then you serve these on find a nice hard roll, very, very good, like maybe a ciabatta roll or a good French roll that's going to soak up that juice off the meat. And we also, some of us like cheese here on them, so we put a piece of provolone cheese on also. Excellent. You don't need any other topping. They were so good. It was just a delicious, delicious sandwich. Very, very flavorful, very simple, pretty much easy to have your ingredients on hand. And like I said, it's something, if you were having a party and you chose to use the 4-pound size roast, leave the juice in the jar with your peppers, and that'll create volume in there. But this is something that's very, very good, very impressive to eat, and it is definitely not a Rocky Porn parody. So give this a try sometime and let me know what you think of it. And thank you for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.